So why is it that every cozy crafting game that doesn't have combat is always compared to Stardew Valley? Seriously, like Stardew Valley is one of those games that belongs in the Mount Rushmore of video games, not even Switch games. I just mean video games in general. It's a fantastic game. Heck, it's used as a reference. Oh, that's kind of like Stardew Valley. This game plays just like Stardew Valley, but none of them do because there's only one Stardew Valley. Although there is a game that's actually kind of close to it, and it's a game called Graveyard Keeper. Well, it so happens that the dev team behind Graveyard Keeper, at least some of them, went ahead and made this game called Bandle. And this game came out last week. Honestly, I was pretty interested in it because not only has the League of Legends games been pretty good, honestly, like they haven't all been great, and there's been one or two that's had some problems, but for the most part, they've been better than expected. Then you also throw in the people who made Graveyard Keeper, and people are saying that this is almost like a more modernized version of Stardew Valley. Honestly, that sounds like it's promising a lot. Let's see if it actually adds up to all of that. But before we get started, please hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps the channel out, really helps me out, and just keeps these videos going. So anyway, I have been playing a lot of Bandle. This is a game that comes to us from Riot Forge, and I believe it's the last one. From what I understand, they had a whole lot of financial issues, and so, yeah, as far as I know, Bandle is the last game from them. And it promises a whole lot. Honestly, I'm not sure if I can say it delivers on it. So let's just start with the story. So this game takes place in the land of the Yordles. What's a Yordle, you might ask? I don't know. They're like a weird little creature that I'm guessing really small, but also really good at crafting, and they live a super, super long time. And by the way, you are a Yordle in the game. And you start off by creating your own Yordle. They have a decent amount of options for you to choose from, but honestly, I would have liked to see a little bit more. But anyway, once you're able to control your Yordle, you realize that you've kind of been protected for a while. You've been training under the Master, who's incredibly wise, old, and kind of cranky. And you've been kind of living in seclusion learning from him. Your main thing is knitting. This is what you guys do. A lot of structures, and even the way that the worlds are connected or the areas of the world are connected is through yarn, and basically through knitting. And so it's a very important aspect of these creatures' life. Not to mention just crafting in general, as everybody seems to have a job that they are pretty good at. Everything from botanist to chef to scholar, all of these different things are also jobs that you can learn as well. These come through a badge. You can wear many different badges, and they allow you to learn new techniques and learn new skills. But at the heart of this whole civilization is yarn and knitting, because that is how these worlds are tied together, essentially. And one evening, you decide to go to a party with your best friend, and unfortunately, some stuff happens, and all of the worlds are separated. Now you have to go back to your grandfather and plead with him, even though he told you not to do it. Like I said, he's kind of a stick in the mud. He didn't want you to go to this party. But regardless, you start learning more and more about the yarn, knitting, and just how powerful and hard this yarn is to come across and how difficult it is to produce. And so that really starts your whole journey. And along the way, you also, like I said, earn different badges to learn different skills that can range from anything from, I guess, cooking, botany, to a lot of different things. And each one of these things are actually given skill points, but based on like what you've crafted or what you've seen or what you've done during the day. And you actually are able to use these skill points once they're allocated to you only after you fall asleep. Now, that might seem like a lot, but it's really not. And you just kind of go through and you can choose which skills you want to use. Now, the problem with this is there's many times when you do need a skill to progress the story and to move forward, but they don't exactly tell you which one. You're kind of supposed to guess. And honestly, it's not the most difficult thing to figure out, but it does kind of tie in with one of the biggest complaints for me of this game is that there's so many different things that you have to accomplish or so many tasks you have to perform that you're not really given instructions on how to do it. And they're never like incredibly difficult, but it's just trying to figure out which ones you need to do or how to accomplish it. And there's just a lot of different things that you do. Like one of the big things that you do is you open up your own food stand. And so you have to set up the menu, you have to invite people, and then you actually have to prepare the food and cook it. And this is done like in a really fast manner where it's almost like Cooking Mama or something, where you're throwing food out and then you're cooking it real quick and then throwing it out to the customers and getting the orders right and whatever, which is a cool little mini game. But there's so many times with these kind of mini games or these little events that they don't exactly explain what to do. Another one of these is you throw a party. It's another kind of skill that you're able to do. Is apparently you're like the hostess with the mostest, and you can throw these bomb-ass parties where you're able to collect yarn or energy from people and put it in the side of your house. I'll get to that. But I didn't know what you were supposed to do with it. And so, I had to throw a party 40 times. No, but seriously, 3 times I had to throw a party before I finally figured it out. Oh, I'm supposed to throw this into the side of my house /backpack. Yes, I said /backpack. Anyway, you accumulate this, and then that's actually what gives you, this really powerful yarn. Now, what was the whole thing about the house backpack? Yeah, your house is portable. It can fold into a backpack, and you take it with you. Now, this is also important because wherever you do a food stand or throw a party or any of these kind of events, it has to be at a certain spot. And only certain events can be held at certain spots. And the way that they really make this more clear is that you were able to do these events based on what carpet you have attached to your house. And you unfold that carpet. Oh, this is the cooking carpet or the restaurant carpet. This is the party carpet, whatever. And so you're only able to unroll the carpet for that area. There again, it sounds more confusing than it is. It's not as difficult, but it's just all of these things kind of add up to being kind of muddy. And at the end of the day, I found myself saying, well, why am I playing this? I don't care that much. Unfortunately, the story just isn't that intriguing. I don't know if it's that lack of intensity or if it's the fact that it's incredibly linear and the environments themselves are almost suffocating. They're pretty small for what you're expecting to have out of this game. I mean, it's a crafting game. You're supposed to go around and gather stuff and make stuff and do, favors for people. But these all happen in a relatively small space. Each little area is, like I said, relatively small. And that just leads more into you're not really world building, if you will, because everything is linear, like I said. And it's the story's job to really fill out this game. But the story it's not bad. It's just not that great. It's not that gotcha kind of experience where you want to know what happens and you're on the edge of your seat, or you really like the characters. Because the characters for themselves, well, they're not bad either. They're nothing that great either. And this is my experience with this entire game. Even the crafting and some of that, I think it's actually kind of cool, especially the whole event thing, throwing your own party, having the restaurant. That's fun, but it's such a small part of the game. And even then, you're kind of limited on what you can do. And I get that they probably did that to make it a little bit more clear, a little bit more easier for people to understand. But if I'm being honest, just the basic crafting is also quite limited. And I don't know, for me, this game does look really good. I will say that. Aesthetically, super pleasing. And it definitely takes me back to almost the PS1 RPGs kind of experience. But it just, I don't know, it's not very fun. And I wish I could say it was better or that I had a different experience, because I can't really point out one thing where I'm oh, this is why this game stinks. It doesn't. It's just not that great either. So, I mean, ultimately, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, which I think may be a little harsh, because I do think that there's a market for this. I do think that there's going to be a number of people who are going to like it. But I just feel I don't know if it has an identity, because it is trying to tell a story, and there is a good and bad element, and there's a lot of story arcs in there, but there's not a lot for you to do. And the crafting that is there is really limited in a really weird way that it's kind of hard to explain. But, in a game like Stardew Valley or many of those type of cozy games, you're sort of left on your own and you're building your environment. But here, it's definitely not like that. And in time, you're even kind of hamstrung by the story. So, yeah, it runs into itself too much, where I think that the game maybe needs to have a better identity. And I do think, like, at the end of the day, that's my biggest issue with it is I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Like I said, for me, it's a 6 out of 10. It runs really well. Like I said, sounds really good. Aesthetically, it's nice. By the way, though, the music does loop a lot. And I will say that, like, after you play this for a while, the music gets really redundant, and that kind of gets annoying too. But ultimately, I think that those who like cozy crafting style games might like it, but there's going to be a number of people who are expecting Graveyard Keeper or Stardew Valley, and they're not going to love it. Like, at first, they'll be like, oh, this is cool. Then, like, oh, this it wears thin really quick, put it that way. Anyway, though, that's my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are on Bandle. Is this something you guys have been interested in? Is something you've checked out? I don't know, anything and everything down in the comment section is very much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.